Order in the Grand Chamber. Ambassador Lux Prime's voice boomed through the crystalline hall of the Galactic Council, his 4 arms simultaneously adjusting his ceremonial robes, checking his data tablet, straightening his chair, and gesturing for silence. For the love of the 7 suns, would someone please have their service bot adjust the atmospheric controls? I'm practically molting over here. 3 different robotic assistants whirred forward, collided with each other, and created a small scene that only reinforced the Council's dependence on automated help. The gathered representatives of 57 spacefaring civilizations shifted uncomfortably in their seats, each attended by at least 2 personal robotic assistants. Chief Observer Kraz 8 cleared all 3 of his throat sacs and approached the central podium. His presentation bot projected a holographic image of Earth above the assembly, while his grooming bot adjusted his ceremonial head fins. Distinguished members of the Council, Kraz 8 began, his voice trembling slightly. I come before you today with disturbing findings about the species known as humans. He paused dramatically as his emotional support bot patted his shoulder with a carefully calibrated pressure of exactly 2.3 newtons. The assembled delegates murmured in concern, their various appendages twitching nervously. A Zentarian representative's anxiety management bot immediately administered a calming mist. As we all know, Kraz 8 continued, every civilized species in the galaxy has developed alongside their robotic assistants. The Proxians achieved spaceflight with their quantum computers. The Betelgeusians mastered faster-than-light travel through their AI networks. And even the Sirius Collective evolved their famous hive mind through cyber enhancement. Ambassador Lux Prime nodded sagely, while his note-taking bot recorded everything for posterity. Indeed, it is the very foundation of advanced civilization. What could possibly be disturbing about that? Kraz 8's color spots shifted to a worried purple. The humans, they don't use robots for their daily tasks. They do everything, manually. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Several delegates required immediate attention from their medical bots. Manually, squeaked a horrified Proxian delegate, all 17 eyes widening. You mean they use their appendages? Their actual physical appendages? Precisely, Kraz 8 confirmed, as his presentation bot displayed footage of humans performing various tasks. They prepare food with their hands, they operate vehicles manually, they even perform surgery without robotic assistance. And perhaps most shockingly, he paused again, this time genuinely struggling to continue. They take pride in it. The chamber erupted in chaos. A Betelgeusian representative fainted, prompting immediate action from their medical bot. The Sirius Collective's representatives began humming their distress frequency, causing several nearby crystal glasses to shatter. But how do they maintain their civilization? Ambassador Lux Prime demanded, while his fact-checking bot frantically searched historical databases. How do they prevent errors, control quality, ensure consistency? Kraz 8's color spots darkened further. They call it human touch and craftsmanship. They actually prefer imperfection in many cases. They have restaurants where they pay extra for food prepared by human hands instead of precision cooking units. Barbarians, muttered a Zentarian, clutching their personal comfort bot like a security blanket. Ambassador Lux Prime raised all 4 arms for silence. Clearly, this requires further investigation. We cannot have a potentially spacefaring species rejecting the natural order of civilization. Chief Observer Kraz 8, you will assemble a research team immediately. Kraz 8's administrative bot was already scheduling meetings before Lux Prime finished speaking. None of them could have known that this seemingly primitive quirk of humanity would soon become the galaxy's greatest asset. The Chief Observer's final words hung ominously in the air. There's one more thing. They're teaching their children to write. With their hands, using primitive marking tools they call pencils. This time, the medical bots had their appendages full, dealing with the wave of shocked delegates requiring immediate attention. Research Station Earth OBS 42 hung in geosynchronous orbit above what the humans called Nebraska, which lead researcher Nova Bright had initially assumed was a manufacturing center for their primitive computing devices. She now knew better, though her research bot was still struggling to comprehend why humans would dedicate so much space to growing plant-based nutrition when automated hydroponics could do the job with 99.98% efficiency. "Look at this," Nova exclaimed, her bioluminescent spots flashing with excitement as she watched the live feed. "They're actually using their upper appendages to manipulate small strings to create body coverings. Computer, enhance Sector 7. Enhancement complete," chirped her AI assistant. "Would you like me to calculate the inefficiency percentage of this activity?" "No need," Nova sighed, watching the elderly human female continue knitting. "Add it to my peculiar human behaviors file, under intentionally inefficient crafting." Her second-in-command, Research Officer Pulsar Wave, drifted into the observation deck, his gravity stabilization bot working overtime to compensate for his agitation. "Nova, you need to see this. Our cultural analysis team just discovered something disturbing." Nova's attention spots brightened. More disturbing than their insistence on manually brushing their dental structures. "They have establishments," Pulsar began, his voice dropping to a whisper, "where they gather to lift heavy objects, repeatedly, for no apparent purpose other than to lift them again the next day." Fascinating. Nova's spots turned a brilliant shade of interest purple. "And their medical bots don't intervene." "That's just it." Pulsar's spots paled to a sickly green. "They don't have medical bots. They have other humans who study for years to manually diagnose and treat illnesses. They call them doctors and nurses." Nova's research bot immediately began recording her elevated excitement levels. She had been studying humans for 3 standard months now, and each discovery was more intriguing than the last. Just yesterday, she'd observed humans in what they called a restaurant kitchen, where they prepared nutrition using nothing but handheld tools and naked flames. "Show me the exercise facility footage," she demanded, her spots now pulsing with scientific curiosity. The main view screen lit up with images of humans engaging in various forms of voluntary physical strain. Nova's analysis bot immediately began calculating the energy waste, but she waved it quiet. "Look at their facial expressions," she pointed with one of her sensory tendrils. "They're enjoying it." "It gets worse," Pulsar added. "We've discovered facilities where they manipulate refined tree pulp with pigmented liquid to create temporary visual art. They call it painting." Nova's spots flashed with sudden understanding. "Don't you see? It's all connected. The knitting, the cooking, the exercise, the art. They're not just refusing automated assistance, they're actively seeking manual experiences." But why? Pulsar's gravity bot had to increase its output as his confusion threw off his balance. Why would an allegedly intelligent species choose inefficiency? Nova watched as a human artist carefully mixed colors on something called a palette, creating subtle variations that would be impossible to program into even the most advanced art bot. "Perhaps," she said slowly, her spots shifting to contemplation blue, "we're asking the wrong question. Instead of asking why they don't use robots, we should be asking what they gain by not using them." Her research bot dutifully noted this insight, while simultaneously failing to understand it. "Schedule an emergency contact," Nova decided. "It's time we spoke to these humans directly." And Pulsar, she turned to her second-in-command, spots twinkling with amusement. "Leave your translation bot behind. Let's do this the human way." Pulsar's spots turned panic white. But how will we communicate?" "We'll use our mouths," Nova said, her spots flickering with mischievous delight. Just like they do. The warning came too late. When the massive solar flare erupted from star HD 47293, not even the most sophisticated prediction algorithms could have anticipated its intensity. Within hours, the electromagnetic tsunami swept across 3 star systems, frying circuits and scrambling quantum processors in its wake. Nova Bright watched in horror from Research Station Earth Obs 42 as her entire complement of assistance bots crashed simultaneously. Her spots flashed emergency red as she floated helplessly in the suddenly dark observation deck. "Pulsar," she called out. "Status report." A muffled thump and a curse in Standard Galactic answered her. Without his gravity stabilization bot, Pulsar Wave was discovering the challenges of manual movement. All systems down, and I mean all systems. Through the observation window, Nova could see the catastrophic cascade of failures spreading across their section of the galaxy. Orbital platforms tumbled out of alignment as their positioning bots failed. Space traffic gridlocked as navigation AIs went dark. Emergency channels filled with panic as species after species confronted a terrifying reality. None of them remembered how to do anything without robotic assistance. The Proxians have lost life support in their central habitat ring, Pulsar reported, finally managing to push himself to a console. Their atmospheric regulation bots are offline. The Betelgeusians. Complete shutdown. Their entire civilization ran through their AI network. Remember, they can't even open their food storage units. Nova's spots pulsed with worry as she watched the reports flood in. The Sirius Collective had gone silent, their cyber-enhanced hive mind fractured without its quantum backbone. The Zentarians were reportedly curled into protective balls, having panic attacks without their emotional support bots. Then she noticed something odd. "Pulsar," she said slowly, "look at Earth." Below them, the blue-green planet spun serenely, completely unaffected by the crisis that had paralyzed the rest of civilization. Cities still glowed. Vehicles still moved. Life continued. "That's impossible," Pulsar whispered, his spots turning disbelief gray. "Their infrastructure should have collapsed hours ago." The communication panel crackled to life, not with the usual pristine digital signal, but with actual radio waves. A human voice came through, slightly scratchy but clear. "Research Station Earth OBS 42. This is Commander Rex Stone. We've noticed you're having some technical difficulties up there. Need a hand." Nova and Pulsar stared at each other, their spots cycling through various shades of shock. "They're using amplitude modulation," radio, Pulsar said incredulously. "Like waves through the air. No quantum entanglement, no neural interfaces, just waves." "This is Nova Bright," she responded, struggling with the primitive communication method. "Commander Stone, our situation is critical. All robotic assistance is offline. We have no life support automation, no navigation systems, no." "Yeah, that solar flare was a doozy," Rex interrupted casually. "Listen, we're prepping a manual docking operation. Our guys can come up there and help you stabilize your essential systems. The old-fashioned way." Manual docking. Pulsar's spots turned terror white. That's suicide. But through the observation window, Nova could already see the small human shuttle approaching. No AI guidance system, no automated protocols, just human hands on human controls. "They're going to kill us all," Pulsar moaned. The entire station shuddered as the shuttle made contact. Nova had to admit the docking wasn't as smooth as an automated system would have managed, but it worked. The airlock cycled, and through it came 3 humans in spacesuits, carrying what appeared to be primitive tool containers. "Commander Stone?" Nova greeted the lead figure, trying to maintain her diplomatic composure while floating awkwardly without gravity control. "Your assistance is appreciated, but I'm not sure you understand the magnitude of our problem. Our entire civilization relies on robotic systems for basic functions." Rex removed his helmet, revealing a grin that Nova's expression analysis protocols would have classified as annoyingly confident if they were working. "Ma'am, we've been preparing for something like this since we first watched The Terminator back in the 1980s. Now, let's start with gravity. You've got a manual backup generator somewhere, right?" "Yes, but the activation sequence requires precise calibration by maintenance bots." Or, interrupted Engineer Maya Chen, already opening her toolkit, "a wrench and some good old-fashioned elbow grease. Trust me, sometimes the analog solution is the best solution." As Nova watched the humans begin their work, she received an urgent message from her pad, somehow still functioning on its basic battery power. The Galactic Council was calling an emergency session to address the crisis. She looked at the humans efficiently moving through the station, fixing systems that supposedly couldn't be fixed without robotic assistance, and her spots flickered with an emotion she couldn't quite name. Perhaps, she thought, it was time for the galaxy to learn the value of human touch. No, your tentacle needs to grip it like this," Engineer Maya Chen demonstrated, wrapping her fingers around the wrench. "Feel the resistance in the bolt. That tells you when it's tight enough." Nova Bright's sensory spots flickered with frustration as she attempted to mimic the motion. After 3 days of working alongside the humans, she had developed an entirely new appreciation for manual dexterity. Her research notes, now recorded with an actual marking implement on processed tree pulp, were filled with observations about human teaching methods. "How do you know?" she asked, adjusting her grip. "Without a calibration bot, how can you be certain of the optimal torque?" Maya just laughed, a sound Nova had learned indicated both amusement and friendly encouragement. "You feel it. Here, close your eyes." "I don't have eyes to close. I have sensory spots." "Then, turn off your visual receptors. Sometimes too much information gets in the way of learning." Nova complied, focusing entirely on the sensation of metal against metal. The wrench turned, the resistance built, and suddenly, click. "Ha! There!" Maya exclaimed. "That's perfect. You just manually calibrated your first pressure valve." Nova's spots turned pride purple before she could stop them. Around the station, similar scenes were playing out as humans taught their alien counterparts the basics of manual operation. In the medical bay, Dr. Sarah Martinez was showing Pulsar Wave how to take vital signs without diagnostic bots. In the communications center, Commander Rex Stone taught to Proxian technicians how to operate a ham radio. "Look alive, people!" Rex's voice carried through the station's corridors. "We've got company." Through the observation window, Nova saw an approaching vessel. Unlike their usual smooth, AI-guided visitors, this one moved with the slightly irregular patterns that now marked human piloting. "That's Captain Blake Rodriguez," Maya explained, wiping her hands on her work pans. "He's bringing supplies from Earth, and more importantly, coffee. We ran out yesterday, and trust me, you haven't seen Grumpy until you've seen humans without coffee." The docking procedure was another masterclass in human adaptability. Without automated systems, Captain Rodriguez and his crew executed a manual docking that, while not perfect, was more than serviceable. "Permission to come aboard?" Blake called through the airlock. "Fair warning, we've got about 20 refugees from the Betelgeusian system. Turns out when your entire civilization runs on AI, basic stuff like eating becomes a real challenge when the power goes out." Nova watched in amazement as the Betelgeusians were helped aboard. The normally pristine and protocols-obsessed species looked disheveled and traumatized. One of them immediately tried to interface with a dead computer panel, forgetting in their panic that nothing electronic was working. Hey, it's okay," Maya said softly, guiding the distressed alien away from the panel. "We're going to teach you how to do this the old-school way. Nova, want to show them what you learned about the pressure valves?" Nova's spots flickered with surprise. "Me? But I've only just learned." "Sometimes the best teacher is someone who just figured it out themselves," Rex commented, helping his crew unload supplies. "You still remember what was confusing at first." As Nova began explaining manual valve operation to the Betelgeusians, she found herself adopting the humans' teaching methods, encouraging trial and error, emphasizing the importance of tactile feedback, celebrating small victories. Her spots flashed with recognition as she watched one of the Betelgeusians successfully adjust their first valve. "Commander Stone," she called out during a brief break, "I need to understand something. Your species had the capability to develop automated systems like ours. Why didn't you?" Rex paused from where he was showing another crew member how to rebuild a mechanical air filter. "Oh, we did. We've got robots and AI. We just never saw the point in letting them do everything. There's something satisfying about working with your hands, you know? But the inefficiency..." "Efficiency isn't everything," Maya chimed in, somehow managing to repair a circuit board while simultaneously brewing coffee using something she called a French press. Sometimes the imperfect solution is the perfect solution. Watch this. She handed Nova a cup of the manually brewed coffee. Try it. Then we'll try some from the automated coffee maker once we get it running again. Nova's chemical analysis spots detected identical caffeine levels and nearly identical chemical compositions between the two preparation methods. Yet, somehow, the manually brewed version had subtle variations that her sensory spots found pleasing. The difference, Maya explained, is the human touch. Little inconsistencies, tiny adjustments based on experience and intuition. Sometimes better results come from imperfect processes. As if to prove her point, a cheer erupted from the medical bay. Pulsar Wave had successfully administered first aid to an injured Zentarian using nothing but his appendages and what Dr. Martinez called good old-fashioned observation skills. Nova's spots shifted to revelation gold as she made another note in her growing journal of human observations. Perhaps the greatest strength of humanity is not their technology, but their ability to function without it. They have maintained a connection to manual skills that other species forgot generations ago. In doing so, they have preserved something precious, the ability to adapt, to feel, to truly understand the work of their hands. She watched as Maya moved on to teach a group of Sirius Collective members how to play something called cards to pass the time without their neural entertainment networks. Also, she added to her notes, investigate this coffee phenomenon further. Possible key to human resilience? 2 weeks into the crisis, research station Earth OBT-2 had transformed into what the humans called a crash course in analog living. The observation deck, once filled with holographic displays and data streams, now featured something Commander Rex Stone called a whiteboard, covered in hand-drawn diagrams and schedules. "No, Ambassador Lux Prime," Maya Chen said patiently, watching the four-armed diplomat struggle with a simple button. "You can't press it with all 4 hands at once. Just pick one." "But which one?" Lux demanded, his ceremonial robes now wrinkled from days of manual labor. "Without my protocol bot, how can I determine the optimal appendage for button activation?" "Just pick one," Maya repeated, fighting back a grin. Lux finally pressed the button with his upper right hand, looking inordinately proud when the manual door release worked. His satisfaction turned to horror when he realized he'd have to repeat the process to close it again. Across the room, Dr. Sarah Martinez was attempting to teach a group of Proxians how to prepare a simple meal without their culinary bots. The 17-eyed aliens huddled around a portable camping stove, watching in fascination as she demonstrated the art of making scrambled eggs. "But how do you achieve optimal protein denaturation without molecular sensors?" one Proxian asked, all 17 eyes blinking in sequence. "You watch the eggs," Sarah explained. "When they start to firm up, they're ready." Watch the eggs? The concept of visual monitoring seemed to distress them deeply. Meanwhile, Nova Bright had surprised everyone by becoming quite proficient at manual tasks. Her spots now regularly displayed confidence gold as she taught other aliens the basics of analog living. Currently, she was demonstrating pencil use to a thoroughly confused group of Sirius Collective members. "The graphite deposits marks on the processed tree pulp," she explained, her spots glowing teacher blue. "No power source required." "But how do you delete?" one of the collective asked, trying to shake the pencil like a malfunctioning data stylus. You don't, Nova said proudly. You use this end with the pink substance to erase. The humans call it rubber, though it contains no actual liquid suspension materials. Captain Blake Rodriguez watched this exchange while showing another group how to play poker, a task complicated by the fact that some species had trouble holding the cards with their various appendages. A Zentarian had resorted to using their anti-gravity pods to hover their cards in formation, which Blake had ruled creative but not technically cheating. "I raise by 2 food rations," the Zentarian announced. "Call," Blake replied, "but you might want to work on your tell. Your anxiety pods keep changing color when you bluff." In the makeshift gym, another human innovation that still baffled most aliens, Commander Rex was teaching basic physical maintenance exercises. A group of Betelgeusians stared in horror as he demonstrated a push-up. "You want us to deliberately oppose gravity? Without assistance?" Their collective shock almost shorted out their remaining basic functions. "Trust me," Rex grunted, completing another rep. "You'll thank me when we have to manually restart the station's rotational drives." The station's corridors echoed with a mix of human laughter and alien sounds of frustration as various species encountered the challenges of manual existence. A Proxian scientist had spent 3 hours trying to master the art of using a screwdriver, only to discover they'd been holding it upside down. A member of the Sirius Collective had accidentally stapled their tentacle to a report, leading to what Dr. Martinez described as an interesting lesson in basic first aid. But progress was being made. Nova's spots flashed with pride as she watched her fellow aliens slowly, awkwardly, but surely adapting to life without robotic assistance. The Zentarians had proven surprisingly adept at manual massage therapy once they got over their fear of physical contact. The Betelgeusians discovered they had a natural talent for knitting, their multiple appendages allowing for complex pattern work that even impressed Maya. "You know what this reminds me of?" Rex said one evening, watching a Proxian successfully make their first cup of manual coffee. "Summer camp, except with more tentacles and occasional violations of known physics." Nova's spots flickered with curiosity. "Summer camp?" "Yeah, where we send kids to learn basic outdoor skills. How to tie knots, start fires, that sort of thing." Nova made another note in her journal. Humans deliberately practice primitive skills for recreation. Possible connection to current adaptability? Must investigate this summer camp phenomenon. Could be key to galactic resilience training. "Hey Nova," Maya called out. "Want to help me teach the ambassador how to use a can opener? He's convinced it's some kind of primitive weapon." Nova's spots flashed amusement purple as she headed over. After all, she was now a certified expert in manual can opening. She'd only cut herself twice. "Pass me that quantum spanner. Would you?" Maya Chen called from inside the maintenance shaft. "No, the one next to the hammer." "Yes, that thing that looks like it breaks several laws of physics." Nova bright-handed over the tool, her spots glowing appreciation gold as she watched Maya combine ancient human mechanical knowledge with advanced alien technology. The solar storm's effects had finally begun to fade, allowing some robotic systems to come back online, but the crisis had sparked an unexpected revolution in galactic engineering. "See, your quantum processors work great," Maya explained, her voice echoing from the shaft, "but they're way too sensitive. If we install this manual override technology we perfected in old Earth submarines, we can prevent total system failure next time." The concept of backup systems had been revolutionary to most alien species. The idea that you might deliberately install a less efficient system just in case the primary one failed seemed counterintuitive until it saved your life. "Fascinating," Nova said, making notes with her now favorite pencil, even though her datapad was working again. "You're suggesting we maintain both automated and manual capabilities?" "Exactly," Maya emerged, grease-streaked but grinning. "Best of both worlds. Like this hybrid coffee maker we developed, it's got all the precision of automated brewing, but with manual controls for fine-tuning. The Proxians are already calling it a breakthrough in beverage engineering. Around the station, similar fusion of technologies was taking place. Dr. Martinez had helped design medical equipment that combined advanced alien diagnostics with human intuitive interfaces. The Betelgeusians were particularly excited about something they called artisanal automated manufacturing, robotic assembly lines that could be manually adjusted for creative variations. Commander Rex Stone walked in, followed by Ambassador Lux Prime, who was proudly operating his new manually adjusted hover robes. The council's coming around. Rex announced. They're implementing mandatory manual training across all species. They're calling it the Human Touch Initiative. Though some of us still question the necessity of this handwriting business, Lux added, flexing all 4 arms. Surely there are limits to how much primitiveness we need to preserve. Says the guy who spent 3 hours yesterday practicing his signature because it looked aesthetically pleasing. Rex teased. Nova's spots flickered with amusement as she added another note: hybrid approach gaining acceptance. Aliens beginning to appreciate human methods not as primitive alternatives, but as complementary systems providing redundancy, flexibility, and occasionally superior results. Hey Nova, Maya called out, already halfway into another maintenance shaft. Want to help me install these manual backup controls? I'll teach you the ancient human art of percussive maintenance. Percussive maintenance. You know, when something's stuck, you give it a good whack. Works better than you'd think. Nova's spots turned curiosity purple as she joined Maya. She had learned to trust these strange human methods, even the ones that seemed to defy logic. After all, wasn't that humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, the reminder that sometimes the least logical solution was exactly what you needed? The newly renovated Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed with its usual splendor, but with noticeable changes. Alongside the quantum processors and holographic displays stood manual backup controls. Each council member's seat now featured both automated assistants and what humans called pencil holders. Ambassador Lux Prime stood at the podium, still occasionally glancing at his handwritten notes, despite his functioning datapad. In recognition of humanity's contribution to galactic resilience, I hereby declare the Human Skills Academy officially open. The chamber erupted in a mix of traditional appendage waving and newly learned human applause. Nova bright spots glowed pride purple as she watched Maya Chen and Commander Rex Stone accept their positions as chief instructors. Never thought I'd see the day, Rex whispered to Maya, when my Boy Scout knot-tying badge would qualify as advanced alien education. The Academy's curriculum was displayed on both holographic screens and what humans called a chalkboard, a concept that had particularly fascinated the Sirius Collective. Course offerings included manual dexterity for multi-appendage species, intuitive problem-solving without quantum computing, and the surprisingly popular cooking beyond molecular gastronomy. And furthermore, Lux continued, now confidently using just one arm to gesture. All spacefaring vessels will be required to maintain manual backup systems, courtesy of the Human Touch Initiative. No more ships that can't function without AI navigation. Nova watched from her new position as Academy Scientific Director as the resolution passed unanimously. Her final research report sat before her, written half on her datapad and half by hand, titled The Human Paradox: Finding Strength in Imperfection. The ceremony concluded with what humans called a reception featuring both automatically and manually prepared refreshments. Nova couldn't help but notice that the line for Maya's hand-brewed coffee was significantly longer than the one for the automated beverage dispenser. You know what's funny, Rex said, joining her by the window overlooking Earth. We spent centuries trying to perfect automation, and all along, our greatest contribution to the galaxy was remembering how to do things the old-fashioned way. Nova's spots flickered with amused agreement as she watched a group of Proxian diplomats attempting to master the art of the high five. In her final notes, she added perhaps the humans were never behind us technologically. They were simply wise enough not to put all their appendages in one gravity boot. Commander Rex raised his manually poured coffee in a toast. To the Human Skills Academy, where advanced alien species learn to be primitive, and that's a good thing.